When we're working with putting this reality out there, one of the things we're looking at is obviously training's been a big concern. What are your thoughts in terms of where this is going to be going with training and what's going to be changing?
We talk about from a crime fighting standpoint that our two greatest force multipliers are the people the three greatest force multipliers we have is the people we lead, the people we serve, the community, and technology. And I think that from a training standpoint, let's be real honest. One of the areas where just about no agency has the funding, the time, or the personnel it takes to train. I think the future really is going to rely on technology. We're going to use it as a force multiplier to create repetitions, create muscle memory, to be able to assess the critical thinking skills of our officers in a safe environment. And I think that the future really is going to be the VR environment. It is the future. The future is now. And I just actually tested your VR the other day at Bolo Route here at the Miami Police Department. We're starting to play with it. And the interesting thing is that VR, historically, I have not been able to use it because I might as well just be out at sea with 12-foot swells, right? And, big old waves, because it would make me nauseous. And my entire staff were very impressed with the fact that somehow, because of the number of I guess pixels or pictures per minute or whatever, it's just not happening now. Having said that, I'm excited that as this technology evolves, it gets better, that we will be able to deliver it right into our roll call rooms, where within 5 minutes per person, you can train an entire shift, where you can, within a matter of hours or days, you can take a tactical situation, a critical incident, recreate it, and start applying the lessons learned into the environment. I have a real personal story that I would like to share that I think is really interesting about VR. My little boy, Jake, just turned 13. Well, I just moved from Texas, and we've never been hunting in our lives. And Jake has never shot a rifle. So a great friend of mine invited us to a huge 7,000 acre, only Texas style ranch in South Texas. We get there, they take us to an outdoor range. They tell Jake, "Hey, have you ever shot before, a rifle before?" "No, sir, I shot my dad's pistol once." And they give him a little 22 and they put a little metal target on the ground. They load it, and there goes Jake. Bing, 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 bing. 3-5 hits in a row, no misses. "Well, Jake, let's try this other rifle." So they go up another couple of calibers, same thing, bing, bing, bing. So my buddy says, "Jake, you said you never fired a rifle before. Where'd you learn to shoot?" And he said, "Call of Duty on his Xbox." So I think it's a real life illustration where even as something as rudimentary, I guess you could say, as playing Call of Duty or sniper games, some of the principles are the same, the breathing control, things like that. And so VR is the way to go. I think it's here. I think we're close. And having tested your system that you're developing, the nausea is gone, and now we just have to fine tune it and move forward.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'm excited about, when I went to college, you could go and you would learn depending on whether the teacher was having a good day or a bad day. So, right. So now with this, it's going to be a lot more consistent. You don't have to think about it. It's constantly current. You're getting a consistent training among all the officers. And I think that's something that I'm excited about too. And then you don't have to think about always making sure you've got the most current copy. It's already being done for you with the use of tech behind the scenes.
Well, not only that, one of the areas where government, we have this big argument about qualified immunity at the national level as part of the police reform debate. One of the areas where we really are susceptible to litigation and can be sued is failure to train or improper training. And the best thing about what you just said is that the future through VR training, you're not going to have any nuances based on who the instructor is, your own personal bias, or either intentional bias, conscious bias or subconscious bias or implicit bias. People are going to put a spin on it. And most importantly, you're going to be able to document who got trained, how they performed, how they were assessed, and if needed, how were they, further trained in terms of remedial training. And so it is not just from a officer safety, public safety standpoint, an economic standpoint, but of a litigation standpoint. I think that it really is going to be phenomenal to be able to accomplish a lot of things and check a lot of boxes, all with the use of virtual reality training for law enforcement and other professions in society.
Art, it seems like technology is also sort of more accepted as a means of training lately as well. Is that what you're saying also, just to your point about the consistency of it?
Well, look, the feel of VR initially had very much an artificial, a fake, not realistic. It could not create I would say it could not get the heart pumping like on a force on force scenario based force on force with simunitions, in a building, slicing the pie, making your dynamic entries. But today's VR, we're at a point where one of the scenarios that we went up in an elevator up in a skyscraper. It was amazing to me. It felt like we were actually going up in an elevator, and then we had to step out on a little narrow beam. And I can tell you, your legs, it was so realistic that you could feel your leg. That wasn't just me. It was my instructors. And, it is getting so real that your brain actually has that psychological reaction, right? Which is I promise you, I think if they were to put they will check our pulse rate, our breathing, our respirations. It's so realistic now that it's really going to add the stress, and all within the confines of a little training room, right? Where all you got to do is create a little space area, a little safe space area. And so I just really believe that this is the future. I think the timing is impeccable, and the most important piece is that you can create training that is cost effective, right? In terms of location, space, facilities, in terms of the cost of actually the equipment, putting the train together. Think about all the shoot, don't shoot scenarios where you're looking at the critical thinking skills of your officers. You don't have to worry about ammunition. Then when you look at some of the firearm systems that will go with VR, with some of the sounds, and it's just, I think the sky's the limit. And quite honestly, I won't mention the company, but about 2 years ago in Houston, a company that enjoyed what I had to say to them on a training day. It was I think you guys know what company I'm talking about. At least I know that Tom does. And they said, what can we do for you? And I said, you can create virtual reality training for us. And the more realistic it is, the better that'll be for us. And that's what's coming our way. And we're excited.
Yeah, and I'm excited too, because you talked also about the future, that is this tech's developing, we're laying a foundation now to be able to adapt to that. Yeah. And then, start to compare, the training that the officers are getting, looking at their body cams, and then it's going to help guide for even better training. And it's just a continual process that it's just going to continually evolve. So having that set up for a foundation now, you mentioned your kid going through Xbox, they're already getting used to it. So those new officers coming in, this is something that they're familiar with. And now we're just enhancing that, their brain on getting that optimal outcome and repeatability, that they can do it as many times as they need to.
Well, yeah, no, and think about these young men and women that are coming up today. When I was a kid, my idea of having fun was grabbing a baseball bat, a glove, and a baseball, and going to the park to play over the line and some of those other things. Now the kids, young people, it's all about electronics. They're wired very differently. They're very tech savvy. And quite honestly, I think they'll be much more in tune with, and by the way, in the VR, you don't have to worry about the weather. You don't have to worry about cold. You don't have to worry about heat. You can create any environment you want in terms of lighting. And so it is something that, it's kind of like when you tell kids, you ask them, has anybody been to the moon? You want to encourage them to read, right? Has anybody went to the moon? Have anybody did this? I go, well, you know what? if you read a book, you can go anywhere in the galaxy, anywhere in the universe. You can experience anything. And the truth is, VR is taking it from that reading to all the senses. And again, not to mention the fact that we have 18,000 police departments, depending on who you ask. But there isn't a single police department that doesn't have internet access. It doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to afford, I think, the systems that are coming. And especially for the departments that facilities are a problem, distances, the ranges are a problem, things of that nature. They're going to be able to train their people very quickly, especially when they don't have the luxury of downtime to drive somewhere or take people offline for a day. With VR training, you can train daily. It can become a daily, as little as 5 to 10 minutes a day. You can really create well-trained officers with good instincts and with good muscle memory in terms of how to react and deal with stuff. And not to mention that you can do a lot of escalation, de-escalation, assessing if they're escalating appropriately, de-escalating appropriately. And so it's exciting. And lastly, the biggest debate in the country right now is, no matter where we're at, whatever happens in Ferguson, Minneapolis, wherever, it impacts the rest of the profession, the rest of the nation. Look at what happened with George Floyd. With this training, we're going to be able to take some of the incidents that happen, an incident that happens anywhere in the world that's complex, that's unique, and we can actually, within a matter of hours, if not, days, if not hours, we can actually distribute that scenario, I believe, in the near future to law enforcement agencies across the country, where all 800,000 peace officers in the nation or across the free world, the rest across the free world, can train on a problem in a matter of days through this type of technology. And it's exciting. I mean, it's information is instant, and this will give us the ability to really speed up the lessons learned across the world.
The leading technologies, like what we see with flight simulators, is a really good example. I mean, the difference between a condoned flight simulator and Xbox is very minimal at this point. So, but I was actually just sort of dazed about your point about that we could literally train someone on a real world environment of something happened that we never thought would happen before. Yep. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Yep.
There's some environment that applies immediately that's going to be a requirement for your officers to be trained that can literally get them in a matter of days. I think that's huge.
No, yeah. I mean, look, right now the problem is that by the time a problem is studied and it's disseminated, we may not be really talking about it for months, if not a year or two. And when you move your training into the virtual environment, sharing that information, it's going to speed way up. And I really think it's going to make us that much more effective as a profession. And again, I think we're here, you're talking to law enforcement, but I think this is applicable to a myriad of skills, whether it's pilots that you talked about, it's air traffic controllers, you can create all kinds of things. But for law enforcement, we get to deal with, unfortunately, we can go a career with not experiencing something, and with this, and by the way, with an inability to recreate or create that training so you can experience it in a training environment, it's really difficult to do today. But with VR, I think the sky's the limit. There is not something that has happened or something that a scenario we can imagine, that our imaginations can help us create, that we won't be able to have our officers and our operators take a crack at. And it's exciting, especially when if you can get a gym with enough space, which is what I would anticipate to do, when you can get a squad of officers in there to work together. And I will predict in the next 12 to 36 months, 60 months at the most, what you're going to see is that the virtual reality is going to end up taking most of the bandwidth in terms of how much training time is spent. It's going to go from going to a range, going to a TAC village, to going into a gymnasium or a room tack room with some mats and maybe some padded walls in case you walk into something if your handler's not paying attention. And you're going to see some just outstanding training, and not to mention the fact we're going to be able to give immediate feedback. It's kind of like what the force on force training we have today, unless you videotape it, which again is all about money. You don't get to see what you did right, what you did wrong. In the VR environment, you're going to be able to see everything you did. You're going to be able to see what you did wrong, what you did right, what you can do better. And you're going to be able to really debrief and learn almost in real time. So this is, again, something that is here. I think, and again, between the next 12 to 36, 60 months, it's going to be widespread. And I hope here at Miami PD that we're going to be in the front end of this wave, this revolution that's coming in training.
Well, we're focused on those thought leaders because we're trying to make sure, you know, you guys have so many issues that you're dealing with that we can build this to really make something useful that, as you said, that you can get it out super fast, because it's, you know, that's one of the challenges, is not being able to get information out quick enough to really experience things that are going on in a real-time basis.
Yep, and you know, and you can add the different tools that we have at our disposal. You can have, you know, you can have the wrap, you can have the taser, you can have pepper spray, you can have less lethal bean bags, munitions, and we can develop it to the extent where if you know, for some reason the taser doesn't in the ritual environment doesn't hit both prongs, you know, that it forces you the transition, or you know, you wrap somebody, but then somehow they get to a pistol, you can transition. It's going to be, I think it's going to be, the sky's the limit. I think it'll only be limited by our imagination. And let's face it, the crook's imagination continues to evolve, and ours, in terms of public safety, needs to evolve ahead of them and not behind them.